do have to take that into account. But like for black people, we don't say that like, well, I mean, black people probably say to other black people, but societally, we don't think it's acceptable to condition black people like, hey, listen, some people are just going to treat you as a criminal. It's okay. It's understandable if they do that,
Unironically, though, you were justifying the red pill movement because the red pill is the one that points out that fucking double standard, that hypocrisy where men get seen in a certain light, men get put down, men get fucking like, for instance, you go to the park, you pick up your kid, and now you're fucking getting looked at like you're a fucking pedophile, or a woman suddenly feels uncomfortable around you, and she's totally justified in feeling so, right? So I guess, funny enough, that is a justification for the red pill, at least the honest form of it, not the one that just calls all women hoes and shit. That's retarded.
Sure. I mean, like, but the red pill is fully justified in that, like, there absolutely are fucking double standards between men and women in society. Like, that's undeniably fucking true. And there absolutely is a
cult of the racism, though.
What?
No?
I'm just saying, like, don't imply that, like, I think that, like, the red pill doesn't make any good points. Like, that we definitely lived in a society of, like, way too much yas queening, like, fucking hardcore. I'm not gonna fucking deny that. Absolutely, that's true. But, like, the problem is all the other things they say are fucking retarded. Then, yeah.
If you were forced, without having to, and you could, if you want to, you could get into it deeper, but without having to, provide justification. If you were forced to give an answer to whether, pattern recognition is justified and due to like racism that's based on pattern recognition is justified, yes or no, what would you say?
If I would say pattern, I would say it is racism. Are you asking me if it's justified?
Yeah. Would you be cool with it? Would you understand it? Yeah.
Jesus, I don't know, man. That's really hard. I don't know how to think about
it. Yes, of course it's hard. That's why I'm asking the hard questions.
I don't know. I have to think about it. If I get a call from a random number and I pick up the phone and the guy's like, "Hello, I would like to talk to you," and I'd be like, "I'm fucking hanging up immediately." But like, I don't know. Does that make me racist? I don't know. Maybe it's a guy that works at fucking Microsoft who wants to give me a free copy of Windows 10. I don't know. Fuck, like,
what if it is? Yeah, imagine if Microsoft don't hire England because of that reason. Would they be racist?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Wait, I think you're gonna have to like maybe more clearly define what you mean by racism, because like as it's usually defined, racism is the idea that like certain races are superior to other races. So like, yeah, understanding that there are more Indian scammers that do telephone calls as opposed to, I don't know, white American dudes, that's not racist. It doesn't imply that a race is superior to another race.
I don't think racism is necessarily race superior. I think racism is when you take a trait that broadly belongs to some group and then you apply that to a specific
individuals.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like, if I go up to an Asian friend, I'm like, "Can you like work on some shit for me?" And they're like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Because you're really good at math." And the guy's like, "I fucking failed like algebra. Like, why would you say that? Oh, because Asians are gonna." That's like a racist thing to do.
That sounds a little bit more like stereotyping to me.
Yeah, stereotyping based on race, which is, I think,
well,
racism,
sure.
Right?
Not everything. Wait, hold on. Do you agree with the statement that not everything racial is racist? No. So, for instance,
no, I think it's all racist. Like black people,
well, you both disagree.
All that shit. I think that's racist. Go on.
Wait, vegan gays, do you disagree? Why?
No, I didn't disagree.
You didn't disagree? Oh, I thought you did.
Like, just because there's a racial aspect to some types of stereotyping, I wouldn't say that's racist. Like again, I understand that there's more Indian scammers who do these telephone calls than white people. That is stereotyping, but I mean, like, at least in my personal experience, I can recognize that pattern. It might be stereotyping, but it doesn't come along with this idea that Indian people are inferior to white people or my race or anything.
No, that's your definition of racism.
Because like they couldn't work that job. Like you'd rather have a white person work that job.
True. That's why Microsoft probably don't hire them niggas. Would they be racist if they wouldn't hire them? Honestly, I would say probably not. Because at that point, nobody's gonna fucking pick up the phone. They'll just assume that they're talking to some scammer.
I think Microsoft does actually employ a lot of Indian people for tech support.
Tech support, like as in like
they're like American Indian people. They sound like me
with an American accent. Yeah, that'd be pretty funny if they did hire like an Indian dude with an Indian accent. Like you know,
H1B worker. I mean, they
imagine if they hired him and then they compared the amount of calls that get fucking hung up on him versus the other people.
Well, dude, what's funny is I live in Ontario. Like, there's just a lot of Indian people who live here, and just a lot of Middle Eastern people in general. And anytime like I get a call from the bank, I like just have to hang up and then like actually call the bank because a lot of the time they're Indian, and I've been scammed by Indian people before, trying to pretend that they're.
Steve, that sounds crazy.
That just sounds racist.
It's not though. Like.
Wait, so when you call your bank's official number and the guy picks up and he's got an Indian accent, you call back?
No, I'm saying no. When I call my bank's official number and I hear an Indian person, I know it's not a scam because I'm calling my bank. But if an Indian person were to call claiming they're my bank, they might have like stolen some information from me. And some of these scams are pretty sophisticated. Like, so I have been fooled once. And like now as a rule, like if I hear an Indian person claiming to be from my bank, I just hang up and then I call my bank.
Wait, I'm just curious. If white people applied that same rule to black people, they just kind of assumed they were going to be like a thief or something. Would you think that's okay? Or
sorry, what's the scenario?
Scenario is 4 people enter a store. 1 of them's black, 3 of them is white. You tell loss prevention, hey, can you just like follow around the black person and make sure they don't steal anything?
I think it really depends because a lot of white
black shoplifters in the past.
Well, it like again, it depends because there is a lot of situations where white people don't actually interact with a lot of black people, and their exposure to black people is like maybe rap music or some crime dramas where black people are portrayed as like gangsters or thieves and stuff. And then they have that stereotype when they actually see black people. If there is an area where there's like a lot of fucking black dudes for whatever reason who commit these thefts, and every other like race or ethnicity in that area doesn't really do that, I wouldn't consider that racist. Like, you know.
Okay, at that point, like, isn't that, haven't you just justified literally all racism? Because isn't that basically all racism?
Well, no. Like, that's more of a, like again, this is more of a cultural thing. It's not really a racial thing.
Because like most racism isn't like somebody like I sat down, I did the research, I hate black people. Usually it's like you just have shitty exposure to them in media. You don't know many of them in real life. For any ethnic group, not just black people, anybody. Isn't that where most racism comes from?
I'm not sure, but I don't see how it's really related to this. Like, again, I don't see an issue with just obvious pattern recognition. Again, if you're a store owner and the only people you ever have a problem with are black people, it's not even necessarily a racist thing. It's just that you're recognizing that there's certain people from this area that have a certain culture who do this thing. So
how would you know it's the culture though? That you just assumed it's the culture. They might just be black. That's about it.
That's true, but also let's wait. On the flip side of that, let's say that a person walks into a store and they're black, and then they find that, because isn't that why cops pull over black people in nice cars? What if you're just like a normal black guy, you don't do any crime, you don't do any weird shit, and now you're getting like followed everywhere, and it's because people assume that you're like everybody else. Like, you don't think that black person might feel like I'm having a racist experience? Or
well, yeah, again, usually when it comes to that sort of police discrimination, it is not justified.
Wait, how? You just said the store owner that dealt with, criminals always being black is justified. Again,
again, like I don't see an issue where if you're actually only having a problem with certain clientele, and then recognizing that maybe you should be a little more cautious around them, I don't see that as a racist issue. When it comes to cops, they don't. So if you look at a lot of the like ticketing in certain areas, like black people are followed for multiple blocks until they commit some sort of traffic infraction, or they fabricate a traffic infraction. So they're not actually committing, they're not committing any kind of crime, and they use some sort of pretext to actually stop them. And again, oftentimes these black people in these areas don't commit certain crime, like at least certain crimes, more often than other races. You especially see that when it comes to traffic infractions.
Okay, so what you're saying is if the cop that pulled over the black person in the nice car did it because in that area there's been a high number of car thefts by, black people, then it would be fair for him to do so. Correct?
No. Like again, when it comes to policing specifically, you have to have some sort of evidence of a crime being committed. Just a black person in a nice car isn't evidence of a crime.
Yeah, but don't you think when the store owner is sending somebody to follow the black people around the store because he's had a couple of black people steal from him, don't you think that he should at least wait to see some suspicious activity before he decides to follow them too? Like you have a different standard for the store owner and the policeman.
Well, obviously, I have a different standard for store owner and police. Like the issue with policing is there are actually legal standards that they have to abide by, and if they're going to make a traffic stop like this, there has to be some sort of evidence of a crime being committed. A store owner doesn't have those responsibilities. So if they're suspicious of certain clientele and they have fair reason to be, because again, certain people from a certain culture are doing these sorts of things, that's a lot different than pretextual stops.
But I think we're not on the same page because they're talking about legality and like the morality of them doing it. Excluding legality, because you are correct, law enforcement officers probably need to have probable cause or at least a valid legal reason to stop the person.
Well, wait. I'm not really just making a legal argument. I am making a moral argument. So when the police stop you in a car, that is a violation of your rights if they are detaining you for no reason. If there's no evidence of a crime,
they're not detaining you. Stopping it.
That is
stopping
detainment.
Is not detainment.
That is a detainment. So if they're
in the United States, if you're like stopped by a cop and you can't leave while they're performing an investigation, that's what we consider being detained in the United States.
Yeah,
detaining and arresting are two different things.
So it's not an arrest; it's a detainment. So that does violate your rights. If there is no reasonable suspicion of a crime being committed or about to be committed, that is violating your rights. Whereas
but what's a reasonable suspicion in this?
Sorry?
Oh, go ahead. No,
okay,
go ahead.
Yeah, whereas if somebody is just following you around in the store, in no way is that violating your rights.
Okay, here's the thing. Without taking it back, because you are correct, right? When you said the point about the detainment, without taking it back to that, morally, right? If the fucking store owner is following you all over the place without seeing you do anything, and the reason he's doing so is because there's been a couple of fucking times that he's got his shit stolen due to the fact that, oh, I didn't follow these people, they were black. Now every single time I gotta follow a black person. If the law enforcement officer is doing the exact same thing, right? And there's some bolo out on a car that a black person happens to be driving, that's reasonable doubt as well. And that makes both scenarios equal in my eye, because how is it not equal?
No. So again,
as a legal definition, when he says reasonable suspicion, he doesn't mean that in terms of what's a reasonable thing to suspect somebody of. Reasonable suspicion is a standard in the United States whereby you suspect somebody of having committed a crime. That's what he means.
Okay, and in the example, I modified the example. I said, let's say that the car, a similar car of the similar type, color, whatever, was reported stolen, and then the police officer immediately stopped the black person.
Yeah.
Then, yeah, sure, it would be justified. You wouldn't say that it's fucked in any way.
Well,
right?
The reason for the stop is because there are details of the investigation that would logically lead an officer to conclude that it is possible a crime is being committed. But it has nothing to do with them being black.
Okay, there you go, correct. And in the store's case, right? The simple fact that you're following somebody around, because nobody, by the way, I don't think people are super careful around their children with white guys, even though the vast majority of pedophiles are white guys. Nobody says you gotta start because what I'm trying to point out to you is pattern recognition apparently only starts working with minorities, right? Nobody says be careful around this person, they're a fucking pedophile. Oh no, it's just a fucking white guy. And in this instance, you're justifying this store owner following this random black guy around because he's been robbed by other black people. Would you do the exact same thing for a white guy just because most pedophiles happen to be white?
Okay, when you're talking about that stereotype in particular, more people are cautious about older white men for pedophilia than for people of any other race.
but they don't start profiling them the same way that you described, with the store owner having somebody follow the black people around the store.
Okay,
maybe they feel some type of way about them, but they don't do what you said they would do with the black people.
Well, my issue is if a store owner is following somebody around the store, that is in no way violating their rights. They can still go into the store, they can still buy whatever they want, and it doesn't inconvenience them in any way. And like, I mean, this is kind of a problem
it's
that
not an inconvenience.
no.
I think it would be if somebody's following me around for the simple fact that I fit the description of some other niggas that I have nothing to do with whatsoever. I would think that this is fucked. Like I think any reasonable person would.
Well, yeah, I mean, I
I'm always thinking
personally
that's the right. By the way, I'm talking morally here. I'm not even because you take it to like obviously with the police officer there is a legal duty and then there's a moral duty. Like I want to create a separation between those two things, right? When I'm talking about the store owner, I'm talking like morally for him to do so, right? Because again, racism goes back to morals. It's not illegal to be racist, correct? So it goes back to morals. Morally, he's absolutely 100% in the wrong to do so if he's treating me some type of way based off some other person's action. And that's the problem with pattern recognition. It starts punishing people that share common characteristics with somebody.
Okay.
Just for the simple fact that they might be similar.
I like when stores have policies where they say no shirt, no shoes, no service. Do you think that is profiling, like an immoral type of profiling?
No,
because it's not uniquely targeted
at
at somebody. Yeah, it's not uniquely targeted at a single race for the simple fact that they are that race.
Well, right.
It's
like
everybody.
The reason, okay, but it is targeting a certain type of person who like dresses a certain way, or
it's targeting behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not tied to race, and that's
like that's you can have like a sign that says like no shoplifting versus no black people. Like the no shoplifting sign is fine. Even
or
if-
like no shirt,
but
or like no shirt, no dreads or some shit like. Then I'd be like, okay, dude, who the fuck are you trying to keep out of your store, right?
Yeah,
if it was some shit like that, then I'd be like, okay, it's a bit weird. But like no shirt, no shoes, like
yeah. So I can understand why somebody would be personally offended by somebody following you around in a store and assuming you might be up to something because of what somebody else did. But again, it's not necessarily unreasonable when you have a lot to lose and you are seeing a pattern where only a certain group of people are doing this. And like this seems like by the way, this seems like a problem that kind of solves itself. If you're shopping at that store regularly and they see that you're cool, they're just not going to bother you anymore in all likelihood.
Not true.
And
no,
usually,
not true.
And by the way, usually you see.
I have personal experience with that shit.
By the way, usually you see like everybody fucking stealing shit. Like if you ever look at somebody who works at like 7-Eleven or a gas station or something, everybody fucking tries to steal shit. So if these people are particularly targeting black people, they probably are just racist. But
wait,
like,
you're betraying your original stance right now. Your original stance was you said it was pattern recognition. It's not racist.
Yeah, I wouldn't say by definition it's racist. Like I mean, if you let's say you owned a Quickie Mart and literally every single theft that's ever occurred is always black people, no other clientele steal. Is it really unreasonable in that kind of situation to maybe be a little bit more cautious around black people?
I would say no. My personal opinion is no, but at the same time, I also recognize that is from a place of ignorance because you would recognize, or you would at least say that it's not the fact that they're black that's causing them to steal.
Right.
It's where they're from, and like it's way deeper than the color of their skin. But that's the easiest thing to like recognize, right?
Well, yeah,
that's why you.
That's why I also tied this to culture. Like, I'm not assuming they're stealing because they're black. I'm assuming it's just because the black people who live in this area might, I don't know, be more involved in crime or something. But it's not because they're black that they're stealing. I think the issue you have is that some people assume because they're black, they're stealing, and then they develop these racist ideas that black people are thieves or something. But I mean,
while that's true and while that's crazy, I have to take off because I need to sleep. I actually don't need to sleep. I've got a ton of things I need to do.
Okay.
Hey, you're not gonna sleep. We're gonna have we're gonna talk, little Steve. We're gonna talk. You said tomorrow night. Technically, it is tomorrow night right now.
Tomorrow night. That's right. Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night is today night, dickhead. Don't try to fucking do this shit. No, we're gonna talk. Anyways.
If you think we can do the
vegan
cover in
games.
8 minutes, because I've got a meeting in 8 minutes that I have to do with.
Okay, we're gonna fucking do it. Vegan Games, by the way, Lil Steve confirmed you, right? Monday, 28, 6 p.m. Eastern time, kick or keep, correct? You're gonna come on?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Okay,
go.
just
Yeah,
confirming.
go.
Okay, kick.com/Quarantos, QORANTOS. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm out. Okay, W boys, goodbye. Good night.
All right. Take care.
Love you. See you later.
All right.